Hello again, this is John Keedwell from the Epix Academy and the Epix Vision Academy. One is a membership site, the Epix Vision Academy, and that's a monthly subscription, and the Epix Academy is a hands-on weekend course or longer. This is about making moving pictures on a DSLR camera, stills camera. So with no further ado, I will take you to shooting with sound. As you can see here, there are many different contraptions for shooting sound, because sound traditionally on a DSLR is not that good, to be quite honest with you. Some of the early cameras only had one channel of sound, and the inputs are mini jacks, so they're not very good, to be quite blunt. You can put a recorder on the bottom if you want to keep the mobility of it, such as the Tascam one on the top right here, and there are other, obviously these are three different makes, basically different sizes, different makes. If you look up here, there's the XLR inputs, which are professional inputs, and also on here, which if you see this zoom recorder down the bottom. So these XLR 3-pin XLR, very robust professional sound recording, and most professional microphones come with a XLR, apart from radio mic possibly. So one of the restrictions that some cameras have, not all, and it's actually a European ruling, is they can only record up to 30 minutes or just under 30 minutes at a time. The reason for this is, certainly in Europe, I'm not sure about America, but the reason was the European Union decided that anything over 30 minutes was actually a video camera, and they decided to slap on a whole load of tax on top of that. So Canon particularly and Nikon have decided that they don't want the cameras to be costing more when they're imported to Britain. They actually record up to 29 minutes and 59 seconds for that reason, and the clip size is restricted. So normally that's not a problem, but if you're recording, for example, a concert, when it goes from one clip to the next, you actually have a slight dropout of sound. The picture seems to carry on, but for some reason sound seems to disappear. So if you're recording concerts, obviously that's a bit of an issue. Certainly if you're not recording with a separate recorder. So you can stitch them together in post-production, but ideally you have a separate recorder, such as one here. I just picked the Zoom because they're small and a lot of people seem to like them. Bit of an issue, if you've got a Zoom recorder on top of it, like here at the bottom, you've got a point where you go, actually, how do you actually see the view, the viewfinder? How do you actually see the picture? So I would probably stick it on a separate recorder on another bracket somehow. But these are different ways of recording sound onto a DSLR. There's Nikon D4 at the bottom right here. Doesn't really matter which camera you're picking, D4 or the Canon 5D. They still need some kind of a box that you can put recorders and microphones into and have it go out to the camera to record to the camera. But I would record on a separate recorder, ideally. So this is a little bit more advanced now, but when you have a recording from a DSLR, you'll have, like up here, this is another rig. You'll have a matte box up here. If you don't know what a matte box is, this is the matte box at the front of the camera, front lens, where you put lenses on, you can put filters on, and it basically stops. It's a glorified lens hood basically, but you can put filters in a filter tray. So you can put grad filters or all sorts of filters. You've got here, you've got, actually it's not a huge rig this actually, but a lot of time you'll want to record separately onto a separate recorder. Now before you say, I know this is a Canon, probably a C300, but this is kind of a compact unit. This is kind of what I'm saying, is this camera's designed for making films, and this camera isn't. Now look how much more compact this is. This is more expensive, I have to say, by some way, but it can record out of the back of the camera to a recorder such as this AJA or Atomos Ninja or whatever. So you can record onto a separate recorder like this down here. Now before anybody says, I realise this is a C300 or a C500, I'm not sure, recording raw onto a separate recorder like so. There are other manufacturers. I've no in particular preference other than Kodak's is a British company, so I tend to favour those more, and actually they have blue lights on, all sorts of things. They do a great job. They all do a great job. They're basically storing data at the end of the day. One thing to look at if you are recording on RAW and you're recording on the flash card, get high speed flash cards because the data rate is so massive. Ideally get 1000 speed flash cards, which are expensive. I think 800 speed is about the minimum I like to record onto, but it's a lot of data. A 256 gig flash card, it may be, several £100. So you've got to think about how to store it, how to record it afterwards. These sorts of recorders like this store massive amounts of data. It's like basically a hard drive, and the CMOS have various hard drives that they store onto, and it's gigabytes of data, so it's not a bit of a problem. But when you, or terabytes even, so when you have a 64 gig card like this, it's a bit of an issue. You've got to keep changing cards all the time. Just think it's something to look at, and also obviously how you monitor it and how you actually look at your eyepiece. So these are a couple of cards. This is the codecs down at the bottom left here. Rather moody picture of this. Again, it's with a Canon C300 or C500, I'm not sure. Again, Canon C300, but this is quite a neat sort of, it's actually quite a small recorder. It looks bigger than it is actually. And here we have the back of it here. Basically, there's loads of inputs and outputs. You've got XLR inputs and outputs. You've got Thunderbolt there. You've got HDMI. You've also got SDI inputs here. The Samurai blade here has BNC inputs for recording, and that can record all sorts of raw inputs from the camera. So the biggest issue really is on DSLR cameras, they have jack plugs, which are not really the most robust of plug, and they don't lock in particularly. They can pull out by mistake, and your camera doesn't really have XLR inputs like this on the back of it. So this is a better way of recording. You can keep the recorder separate. You can record from the camera straight to the recorder, and have the sound recorded as well at the same time. The other thing to think about obviously is synchronizing the sound to the picture, and this is where the humble clapperboard comes into here on the right. This is a more advanced version than they used to be. I've got one which is basically two bits of wood clapping together, makes a noise basically. This obviously puts a time code on. But various different ways of recording the output from your camera, and all of these are good. I've no particular favourite other than the fact that some do slightly different jobs than others. I've used the Samurai on top of a camera. They're very easy to use. The AJ and the codecs are a little bit more advanced, potentially with more inputs and outputs, but significantly more expensive, so you take your choice. And that's me for this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you want to know more, you can find me on the membership site, the epicsvisionacademy.com, and if you want a hands-on course to know how to shoot and how to light, you can come to meet me or see me at the Epics Academy. So hopefully see you on the next video, and that'll be coming up soon.